app, the real app that I'm gonna test, where I would show you some leakage, some sensitive data that's gonna leak in the logcat. So I'll blur out some details, but have faith on me. These are real world apps from the Play Store. This app has more than 5 million installs, and it's quite used in Indian subcontinent. A lot of students, they use this app. Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. This is Asim here, and hope you enjoyed the previous video on Android pen testing. So today we are gonna move with the second part of that, and we are gonna see insecure logging and storage, and how we are gonna exploit that, and what are some of the nuances that you should take care when reporting insecure logging, and similarly goes for storage as well. Let's start with this. Before I start, there's another thing that I'm seeing on my YouTube analytics, that a lot of people watch the videos but they haven't yet subscribed to it. So yeah, please make sure if you like the video, subscribe it, share it with your friends, try to increase the reach of this channel. Yeah, that would help a lot. Let's start with this. So today we're gonna talk about insecure logging and storage, what, why and how. So first we are gonna set up Genymotion, and I'm also going to talk why we are using this. Then we will be using pidcat to see logs. So I will be showing this on the real app. I would blur out some of the details because I talked to the person in charge there, and they told me you can blur it out, and that's fine. So yeah, there's this bug still there, and I will show how it's exploitable and whether you should report it or not. So we will be seeing about that and finding sensitive info in log section, about the read logs permissions, why it would be an NA and how you could convert it to a valid report. App crash and log dump is another thing. Then also we would be seeing about insecure storage. So we won't be discussing about shared preferences right now. I'll be talking about that in a later video because it needs its own attention for a video. So we'll be just looking at world readable files and searching sensitive info for them. Let's start with this. So first thing, what's a Genymotion? So Genymotion is an emulator. So it basically mimics Android, or it creates Android virtual devices onto your laptop, so that you could, if you don't want to test on a physical device, you could test the APK on the Android virtual device using Genymotion. So there have been a lot of other virtual devices and emulators. Genymotion has been quite light on resources and way faster than a lot of other emulators. So I prefer using that. Also, since it's available for Linux and Mac and Windows as well, so it's available for all of those. It's fairly easy to set up. You just go on this link and download it. After you have downloaded it, this is the link. So this is showing for Linux because I am on Linux machine. If you want, you can go and use for another, if you are on a Windows machine, it would automatically show an executable download. Once you have downloaded it and you install it, on the first run you would see a screen something like this. There it would allow you to sign up for an account, so you need to sign up. So you could use your email or temporary email, whatever you feel like, that's up to you. And other docs are here. I would add the links for these in the description. Let's see about pidcat. So pidcat is basically process ID cat. So pidcat is a way to see logs in your application. What it essentially does is it colorizes those and color codes them, and it's very in a very nice form to see that. So let me first show how you install it. It's very easy to install, and then I would show without using pidcat how the logs look like, and then I would show what pidcat does for you. So here's the repo from where you could install pidcat. So just go on this pidcat.py, copy this whole raw file, Control A and Control C to copy it, and just paste it in your user local bin. That would be fine. I have which pidcat. So if I show you here, let me change it to opaque. So if I show you cat user local bin pidcat, so see this whole this is the whole Python file that's there. So I've just pasted it and named it as pidcat. So what you would do it, user local bin pidcat, and just paste it there, like the copied code after you have it there, paste it into this file and make sure you make it executable. So after you have done this, like let's say you pasted it here, so after you have done this, make sure you make it as executable. User local bin pidcat. You need to have a sudo for this. Yeah, that's that. Let's see what next. So pidcat usage is very simple. Pidcat and whatever app identifier you want. So app identifier is basically the app name or the unique identifier. Like let's say Facebook app. So if I go to Facebook, so here in the ID you could see com.facebook.katana. So com.facebook.katana, that's the unique identifier for Facebook app. And Facebook Lite app would have a different identifier. Messenger would have a different identifier. So yeah, that's that. So you need to have the unique identifier for your app to get the logs for that particular application. Now let's start Genymotion. So I have it already here. So it's version 3.2.0. So I have a few devices here. Once you have logged into Genymotion, you have done the sign up process, you would see an empty screen here. Just go to this plus add virtual device. Then you could filter devices based on the form factor, like whether you want a phone, a tablet, or a large tablet. Android API, so this is what I mostly prefer. Android 6 I prefer because till before Android 7 till Android 6 you could easily install the birth certificate and sniff the data. In Android 7 and above you have to do some other works as well, so I prefer Android 6. So let's say you select this, so you see all the devices that's Android 6 supported. So let's say you want Google Nexus 6P, so just double click on this. You could give a name, so I prefer giving it a name as Android 6 because the device company doesn't matter to me a lot. So yeah, that's that. Processors, number of processors you want, number of memory size you want to give to this device. NAT bridge is fine. Click on install, so it would automatically start downloading it, creating device and downloading it. So since I already have it, so I am cancelling it. So let's start this Google Nexuses. This is my device. Let's start this. So it would start booting up here. Let's come back when it has booted up. So yeah, it has booted up and this is how you would see the screen here. So let's unlock it. So you won't be seeing this network may be monitored. It's being shown here because I have installed the work certificate, and once you install it on your device, like even if on your physical device, you would see this notification by an unknown third party, network may be monitored. Yeah, just unlock it. So the password is not the same as I keep on my mobile phone. Here it's 1234, but that's because of the convenience. It's a bit slow for me right now, like it might look a bit slow because I have a few other things running like the screen recorder and the audio recorder and other stuff, so that's why it might look a bit slow, but like have faith on me, it's way faster than other devices. So let me show you this. So what you do is you need to have ADB on your machine. Probably you can see the setup online as well. If you want, I can make a video on that. That's fairly simple to set up. So yeah, comment under the video if you want that. First, I would like to look at ADB devices. So what are the different devices connected? So as you could see, 192.168.101 and port 555. So this is the whole device name, and the second one is my OnePlus that's connected, from which I am recording this one. And you could also see here on the top also the Genymotion 192.168.56.101. So if I want to do a logcat for this, what I would do is I would copy this ADB-S. -S is for serial connection. So which device I want to connect to, logcat. So let's say if I do this, so you see that there's a lot of log that's coming. So what happens is a lot of devices, a lot of apps, internal as well as Android apps, like third-party apps as well. So they post a lot of these logcat. They write a lot of things to log. And if you see here, so here is the timestamp, then the process ID. This is I think the parent process ID, or it may be vice versa. Then this E stands for error. So there are different levels of log. There's error log, there's warning log, debug log, informative log. So as you could see, error log, warning log, let me stop this for now. So like you can see here, this is the error log, this is the warning log, this is informative log, and this is the debug log. And then the service that's like pushing this log too. So here also you could just like give an identifier to just give logs for that particular app. But what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use pidcat because it gives it in a colorful format, so that's quite pleasant to look. So let me, let me just put it like this. That would be quite nice to look for. So yeah, once you have this setup, like let me show you pidcat. I'm not giving any identifier. So if you see using pidcat, you could see that how colorful and like it looks very nice to look for and quite easy to understand that this is an informative debug, which app is or which device, which part of the Android ecosystem is sending this log. So that's quite good to look at. So now I would be starting my app, the real app that I'm going to test, where I would show you some leakage, some sensitive data that's going to leak in the logcat. So I would blur out some details, but like have faith on me, these are real world apps from the Play Store. This app has more than 5 million installs and it's quite used in Indian subcontinent. A lot of students, they use this app. So I'm closing the app for now, and you could see that one of the like logs, this was a debug log, and it was an OK HTTP library, and you could see the bearer token here. So this bearer token basically authenticates the user to the service, the API. As you could see, the API that's being sent here. So this is the API request that's being sent. So yeah, that's that. And using this log, so if any other app that was on the phone and if they had this read logs access, so they could easily like get this bearer token and act as the logged in user. So let's come back to this one, and I'm going to talk why this is important. So what we saw here was that sensitive information like authentication token, the bearer token, that was getting leaked into the logcat, and if another app has access to the logcat, they would like get that bearer token and access the API on behalf of the logged in user. So that's a risk. It's mitigated in a lot of cases because the read logs permission that allows an app to read the logs is not like, it's not available right now. Like till Android 4.1 it was available. So this is the screenshot of that. So this was a security measure that was taken partly to prevent apps from reading logs. So right now only privileged apps or apps that were installed on the privileged partition or in the that were installed with the firmware itself. So only those apps have permission to like read the logs. So a lot of like I've seen Chinese devices, they have this a lot of bloatware and random apps, so they come pre-installed. So if they are pre-installed and if they are like installed on sensitive partition, so they can easily read these logs, and because this is a security risk, so yeah, that's the reason. This is partly mitigated because that permission is not available and no other apps can request it after Android 4.1, and Android 4.1 was released 5 years ago. However, you should report it with like a pinch of salt. I would say that okay, this can be leaked. And another thing, that you should try to crash this app while this log is being dumped. So sometimes what happens is when the app gets crashed midway, like not closing it, just crashing it. So crashing it could be like, let's say that you just close the emulator or just swipe the app if you are using a physical device. So like that, if you crash the app, so in some cases it happens that this app makes a crash dump or log dump into a public world readable file, like in the downloads directory or somewhere else. So if it's in a public world readable directory, so there what happens is any other app also could read these logs, and since this log contains auth token, so you can easily understand the like severity of that. That's where we come to world readable files. So let's come back to this again, and let me go to the ADB shell. So I would show you both the shells, my non-rooted OnePlus and this Genymotion, which comes by default as a rooted. So the difference between those, let me show you. So why for this you need to have a rooted phone, because then only you would be able to look through all the files that are world readable or not. Like, let me show. So ADB devices, and if I do -s and I paste it here and then I do shell, so you could see I already have a root here. So if I show the ID as well, so this is this, right? But what if I do it the same on my OnePlus, which is not the rooted phone? So ADB -s shell. So you could see that this is not the rooted, it's not the root shell. So the difference here is that if I go to this CD data folder, sorry. So if I do ls-als, so permission denied. Whereas if I go to this data -al, so I could list all the apps directories that's there. So that's the reason I ask you that you use a rooted phone. So for finding a public readable file, you just need to copy this command and paste it into this. Let me clear this. So you see that there is no public readable file here. I was facing some issue in Genymotion, so even if I create a public readable file, it was still showing as not there. So that might be case, but on physical device it was still working. I would add a screenshot here to like make you understand what's the reason, what's the difference between that. So let's say there's a public readable file. So let me create this public readable file here. Okay, vi is there, a.txt. So this is currently I am in my Genymotion's root shell. So I have this hello world, and like I already created it before this, ls-al a.txt. So as you can see, all the permissions are there. So if I show you through this slide, so this is the diagram to understand it well. So this is the group name, the username, the size, date, time, all these things. These are the permissions on the left side. So the last three, so there are three bits of all, and the first bit is the file type. So if it's a D, so that means it's a directory. Then the next three permissions, the next three, and the next three. The first three is the user permission, the second three are the group permissions, and the last three are the other permissions. That is for everyone, the world readable thing. So if it's R on this one, so that means it's a world readable. W is for writable, X is for executable. So as you could see it here, I have given this permissions as RWX, RWS, RWS. So the last one bit here, it's the readable. So -R is for readable, and since it's in the third octet, third triplet, so that means it's a world readable file. What that essentially means is that, like, let's say I do su, let's say su hyphen, let me see what are the apps here, PS. So let's say I impersonate as this one, a lower privileged user compared to the root one. So su hyphen u. So now I am this UID 10041. So even now what I can do is I can data a.txt. So I can just read that file because it's a world readable file. However, I cannot do this. So, however, I cannot list the contents of the data directory because it's not this particular like this particular user doesn't have this. And as I already talked in the previous video, that every app runs with their own user ID, so they don't have permission to view other users' directory. That's why it's not able to do that. But because you were the root person and you got to know which all files are world readable, like which apps, like say suppose this a.txt was not here. First let me exit it. So let's say this a.txt was not here. A.txt. Let's say this a.txt wasn't here, but rather let me share. So let's say it was in let's say Android calendar folder. So ls com. So let's say it was in this file, and this Android calendar was making some sensitive information and writing it to a.txt inside their folder, and that a.txt contained some sensitive information, but that was publicly world readable. Because you were the root person, so you found that okay, this app has this vulnerability that it writes to this file, this particular folder, with a world readable permission. So how you would find that? Using that find command. So using this find command, you will find that okay, these are the world readable files of these particular apps. So you install, the attacker installs a malicious app that could try to read this world readable file, and that's how like they would get access to that sensitive data. So this is like totally acceptable, valid report, not a NA. In the previous logging one, you would have to like check whether by crashing the app there is a log dump or not, or if they accept the rooted, like if they accept, because some of the programs they say that they won't allow, like they won't accept if you are giving a bug of a rooted phone. So if you are showing that okay, that this logcat issue is there because rooted phones can already like read the logs, so apps on rooted phones can read the logs, so that's if the program accepts it, well and good. Otherwise, if you just connected the device to a USB cable and enable USB debugging, so without root permission also you could read logs on that device. So for that you don't need permissions, root permissions, but you need to have physical access to the device, which in most cases, most of the companies they don't keep in scope. Then that's mostly out of scope. But yeah, that's a risk that's there. Yeah, that's pretty much all that I had today. I'll be posting the links for whatever apps or tools that I showed in here. Yeah, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe it, and share it with a lot of folks whom you feel that they would get benefited out of this Android video series. I'll be back with another Android video in the next part, probably related to shared preferences and then starting to sniff the network traffic. In later on videos, I would also talk about React Native apps and how you can debug that and how you could like look into that secrets and stuff. So yeah, have a nice day.